time wasted. Let's see how this is going to end up going for these players. And I mean, are you afraid if you have to sit down against somebody as well known as Tiago Saporito? You're
Um,
probably not, but
uh, at this point in my life, no, not really. But I am afraid playing against like an archetype. If it feels like I'm looking at the
okay.
deck list over, like, ooh, this is gonna be tricky.
Hmm.
You kind of and the way that plays a role is maybe you're a little more risky than you would be otherwise if you think you're behind.
Okay.
And the same thing would apply if I'm playing against, I don't know, Reed Duke or Nathan Stoyer, maybe, or it's just like, okay, these players are probably better than me. And so if I have a debatable hand, maybe am I more likely to keep because I'm not confident I can win on fewer resources? Maybe something like that happens.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting thing to point out as I mean, especially in modern and with both of these decks, they are very resource intensive. And so having to keep those constantly in mind is certainly something that you're going to be thinking about even when you're just shuffling up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all right. So we're looking for no real place before turn 3 for Tiago, although it could be, ice on a land is still a pretty big deal. And
And
we
that's
are,
not too bad because it does allow you to draw a card too.
yeah.
And it is, I mean, as long as you're paying attention to the pivotal turns of this four color deck, which do usually end up being like the turn two where you could cast an expressive iteration, or the turn three where you're going to be playing one of the planeswalkers, it does make sense to be trying to at least get them to take a step back.
Mhm. So the plays here, the turn 2 plays here, okay, and there is an ice here from Tiago. The plays that this would be shutting off is primarily Ren and 6, because Nubin's deck also doesn't really get going until turn 3. But delaying Ren and 6 is still significant, and that does appear to be what Tiago has in mind.
Hmm. All right, trying to decide what the rest of the turn is going to be for Nicole now that that Invasion Triome doesn't really get to. I mean, it got to untap for but a moment.
Mm-hmm. So there's not going to be any counterplay on the stack here for Nicole. So if Tiago has Charlotte's Agent or Violent Outburst here, the Rhinos will enter play. Will they be good enough? That remains to be seen. Nicole's deck is certainly capable of beating a couple 4/4s.
That is very true. Taking a peek at what we could possibly be thinking about for Tiago Saporito's deck is also playing those four Mystical Disputes main board, and those are going to be quite good against a deck like this four color control one that Nicole has brought to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's the primary target, the Teferi Time Raveler,
Mm-hmm.
is if Nicole attempts one here, yeah, there's the chances of there being no dispute or Violent Outburst isn't particularly high.
And that's got to be something that you're weighing from Nicole's standpoint too. You're
Mm-hmm.
definitely wondering, like, okay, turn three is the turn that the Teamer Rhinos deck does usually try to go off, and you've decided to wait. Okay, what does that mean for me? And a little bit of a change up here, and that does equate to a violent outburst on Nicole's end step. I'm gonna go ahead and flip over a bunch of cards here and be left with some rhinos. The seeds on the overlay are switched. Tiago Saporito was the number one seed in this tournament.
Okay, good call there, Becky. Maybe production can get that sorted out. And Nicole Dubin, in fact, was 4. Yeah, so they are just
Mhm.
backwards. They're not just randomly wrong. I'm not sure that's worse, but it's not better either. There we go. All right, binding on one token. Well, that sounded good. Nicole's
Ooh,
going to double up on that, binding on both tokens.
it seems this is always one of those things where the Crashing Falls deck just seems so strong to me. When
Mm-hmm.
somebody has to use two real whole cards to take care of a half of a token that you had, I feel like that just has to feel good for the Team Rhinos deck.
Yeah, no, it does. But if something, if if a force of negation had hit that crashing rhinos that was pitch cast, it'd be the same thing.
That's fair.
So it's like I definitely I think too often value card advantage over board presence. But we see it here, and here is a Murktide. So, well, Leyline's a great answer to that, but 2 are expended already. And Nicole, continue to be put to the test here.
Yeah, that's maybe something else that you wish you had a Leyline Binding for. We'll see if Nicole is able to create a different kind of answer, and instead is just going to say, all right, if you're going to advance a game plan, I'm going to try and do the same thing. Omnath, the follow-up to that large flyer.
Yeah, no, Omnath is a great follow-up there. I mean, it's only 5 damage in the air. That's not that big of a deal. Omnath actually negates most of that with the land drop next turn. And Nicole, recoups the card advantage from the double Leyline there. And yeah, this is not bad at all. Let's see, we have Gemstone Caverns here deployed by Tiago. We'll just tap for colorless. And they gone the back half of, or not the back half, but the secondary half of Dead
the
gone.
Right side half.
Yeah, exactly. We'll put that back in hand, where in Nicole Dubin's seat, you have to be concerned, well, my opponent bounced a creature with a come to play effect, so are they planning on Mystical Disputing? And if that's true, I'll run out a creature that's not blue, and that works. And Nissa is now on the board.
Oh, yeah, that would have been bad if it was a Risen Reef, but namely doesn't have the blue portion of it on this new Nissa and Windswept Heath. So as we were talking about earlier, Nissa very good with a lot of the fetch lands that are such a kind of normal part of Modern nowadays.
Yeah, all right.
Nowadays, pretty much always. All right.
Yeah, white mana created, and so after the fetch here, Nicole will be able to just flip the top of the deck before finding an elemental. It's elemental or elf, is that right?
Yes, I believe
Which
so.
the elf part isn't too relevant here, but well, is Nissa an elf?
Nissa is an elf.
Okay, so it can find a copy of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Of course, I try to hover over it, and the...
Yeah, I just did the same thing. Yeah, the MTG Melee interface has not adapted well to the Aftermath cards, as we've found multiple times today. But it's okay, because they've been spaced out enough so that each time I forget that it doesn't work and then try again.
Oh.
And here is the Teferi into the Mystical Dispute. So Dispute does hit home, and okay, there is a Solitude pitching the Yawgmoth to take down the Murktide. All right, so a lot of stuff happened there, and Nicole does have command of the board right now with, I mean, Nissa in play, and Nissa in play, and any follow-up fetch lands are just more free cards. So this is, I'm impressed by this card so far.
I mean, I've been impressed by Risen Reef enough, so the fact that they just made Risen Reef a little bit better. I guess the only downside to this one is you can't have 2 of them in play at the same time.
Sure.
But the ability to continue to just like find cards and find more copies of herself. She herself is not an elemental, is an elf scout, but can try to find an elf or elemental card. What are you considering here if you are Tiago? Are you Murktide number 2?
Yeah, I think the actions give it away real quick here. It's another Murktide, and the remaining card in hand is Fire Ice. Okay, 6/6 Murktide versus Nissa, and Nicole is not out. There's a few cards left in hand, and it's hard to really flood too badly with Nissa in play. Here's Binding number 3. Yikes! This is looking pretty favorable for Nicole Dubin here.
Yeah, that looks extremely good for Nicole. To the point where you're attacking with Nissa, which I can't imagine that card is going to do a whole lot in its time, but hey, able to do it here. That Fire Ice, as you mentioned, could be a way for Tiago to try to draw out of this situation, but we're not really able to, I guess, tap down anything super great. And this Nissa is kind of scary.
Yeah, this is bad. Here's an endurance. All right. Uh, and Tiago's going to consider, yeah, okay, fetch. And then maybe just ice down something here to try and maintain some time. Uh, there's maybe there's something to, like, a violent outburst into a couple rhinos would completely annihilate a potential attacker from Nicole Dubin.
Mhm.
So even without icing something, Nicole may not feel super comfortable attacking with both creatures here. Now that's, ignoring what might be in the hand, which I don't have sight of right now.
Yeah, this looks to be just another draw from icing that Rogren Triome.
Okay, and a pass there. So Nicole's not going to risk either creature.
All right, Shardless Agent going to be cascading into a Crashing Footfalls here.
Yeah, well, that's what Tiago needed here. This is a rebuilt board presence now, although it's not like, even attacking with the two rhinos, Nicole's got enough life that there could be potentially a double block on one rhino just to give up the Nissa potentially, and then I mean, that's not great, but well, here's Nomnath. That is pretty great.
Woof. Great draws once again, and it just feels like this 4-color control deck never runs out of things to do.
Speaking of not running out, here comes two more 4/4 tramplers for Tiago, and now let's see, with Nicole at 12. I mean, attack with a squad of 4/4s would maybe a little threatening, although there's no cards in hand for Tiago Saporito at this point.
Footfalls number 2 is going to continue to amass a bit of a board here for Tiago going into this turn. A lot of power in play. It looks like we are very quickly saying, you know what? I got all these 4/4s for a reason. This is what they're meant to do. Let's get sideways.
All right, so on that single block, double block with Endurance and Nissa, Tiago is going to put Nissa in the front. The board will simplify somewhat, and 8 damage will come across.
Yeah, looking at lower and lower life totals is meaning just how much we have to put in front of these rhinos in a 4 life. Making sure that we have ways to
Oh no, my goodness.
What?
So that was, wow, that was an abrupt cutaway. That was
yeah, I'm like, what the? Okay. And it doesn't even resolve. Mystical Dispute stops it from even being able to come into play. So would have been kind of backbreaking, but doesn't even have to be a concern. At 4 life, Nicole has to block this rhino with the endurance. The Shardless Agent gets through. We've got to come up with 2 blockers. Nissa is a start.
Yeah, boy, that was such a good Mystical Dispute. Double Fury there would have been really, really strong. Okay, is there something else? Nicole needs more. Okay, fetch land.
Could be a start. I mean, I guess if we're to a life, we're already in such a rough place. We might as well just go a little lower.
Yeah, 1 and 2 is equivalent. Let's see. So with 1 mana, a 1, 2, 3. I mean, I fetch here, and then if Nissa flips a Solitude, Nicole is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, fine, but
in a better place,
alive. Stomping Ground here means Solitude would not be castable. I wonder if there was no untapped land.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like that you can only have so many basics in this deck, and
Yeah,
Nicole
you're right.
already
There are three
has an
basics in
island.
play. Maybe that's all of them. I'll take a look here. Yeah, that is it. That is why there aren't any more. And there is a did it bring Solitude?
And the flip was a Boseiju, so Tiago Saporito off of some top decks of his own, able to get himself a string of footfalls for Rhinos, able to put it all together and bring the number one seed a win at the start of this semifinals round.
That was a really good game.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, Nicole kind of shrugged off at some card disadvantage, but very easily handled the kind of the opening
Yeah.
salvo from Tiago, and then it looked pretty grim. And Tiago, I mean, drew more lands than he probably wanted to. And then I think it was the ice into Shardless and then draw off the top bound outburst, two sets of Rhinos, and then the dispute on the Ellersnorn. That was, I mean, Nicole was right back in if not for that. So that was all we could ask for in game one.
Yeah, I mean, let's take a look at what we think game number 2 and potentially 3 are going to look like by starting with Nicole's deck. What do we think she's going to need to bring in that's going to help out a lot in this matchup?
Well, every time anyone's playing against Rhinos, I'm always looking for what kind of the real lock pieces are. And there's 4 Teferi's main deck here. There are 2 Chalice of the Voids in the sideboard. So that's a given.
Winners.
Change the equation. Here there's a one of. I mean, that can counter most of the deck. I guess not, oddly enough, Mystical Dispute, but it can counter most things, including Rhinos, which again is the big deal. So those all seem good. I guess if she wants more, Flusterstorms are available.
Yeah, I was going to say that might be an inclusion, I guess, depending on how many things you're deciding to take out in this matchup. And I think that that can kind of be where you're a little bit questioning. I feel like those lightning bolts probably aren't too great. They don't really kill any of the Rhinos. And we maybe feel similarly about these Leyline bindings. They're a bit clunky.
Yeah, they do get the Murktides though. So
that's true.
I mean, also Ether Gust is another way to counter the Rhinos. And it's not like if Ether Gust hits your Crashing Footfalls, Tiago's going to be, real excited about putting it on top of the deck.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, there's some real tools here. There seems like more cards that we obviously want than we obviously want to take out. But I agree with you. Definitely, the bolts are probably gone. And then it comes down to experience with the deck. I mean, Ephemerate. Do we have enough time to waste something like that? I mean, that's obviously super strong in ideal scenarios.
I was gonna say Ephemerate also. Okay, no, I'm confusing it with some other blink cards. It only targets things that you control.
Yeah,
so
I think Prismatic Ending might go too. I mean, what are we hoping for? I mean, sure, it's a cheap way to kill one Rhino, but is that a good deal for a card?
I mean, it's a cheap way to kill a Rhino that is, I feel like, easier to put together than something like the Leyline Binding.
Yeah.
So I feel like I would prize those a little higher than Leyline Binding itself.
Perhaps. Okay. Let's go ahead and look at Tiago Saporito's Team of Rhinos deck.
Yeah, sideboard here, Fury seems like it probably is allowing you to fight against some of the creatures that Nicole will be attempting to stick, but the rest of these things seem like they're maybe on a bit of shaky ground. Blood Moon always seems kind of risky to me.
Yeah, I mean, and we saw that game. Nicole actually, in some could argue, was punished by having all other base lands in play, which would be what Blood Moon would want you to try and do. So maybe Blood Moon. I think Blood Moon maybe comes in. Gemstone Caverns. I expect we could probably see just every time you're going second is probably what the intention is for that card.
Yeah, I mean, Tiago's already playing 2 Gemstone Caverns main. So it's quite an interesting setup for the lands here.
Well, the third one isn't there to not bring in.
That's fair.
So or maybe this is just a flex. Maybe it's like, you know what, I only need 14 cyborg cards. I'm going to throw a Caverns in even though I'm not planning on using it.
I mean, we've seen a lot of people end up registering 61 cards. Maybe that Gemstone Cavern should have just been the 61st card.
Maybe so. I couldn't. I cringed inside when Mr. Stryker said that he likes playing 61 cards in his Tron deck, and I was just like, oh, killing me here. Anyway,
You're gonna out your cringing live on
yeah, I
twitch.tv
am.
right now.
Yeah, I'm sure that most of the chat felt the same way. 61 cards. Oh, I don't know. All right, getting ready for game 2. Nicole Dubin. Can she hold control for the whole game? It looked good for parts of game number 1, but at the end, Thiago Saporito and Rhinos were what was in charge, and Nicole's not wasting any time. Found the sideboard card opening hand, and Thiago has an answer to it. So, okay.
Oh, a quick answer. Yeah, no chalice for you. Don't care about having this ice. It was actually quite good in game number 1, but making sure that I can actually cast the things I cascade into is going to matter quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Force of Vigor is another option for Thiago and is an out 2 Chalice of the Void, but that's rough. I mean, there's only 2 chalices in Nicole's deck, in deck list. So how many Force of Vigors would you bring in? 1, 2, none? That's tough. And the first one's countered here anyway, so.
Yeah, it's hard because I feel like you're already, playing Borrower to take care of Chalice as well.
Mm-hmm.
You have kind of a few answers, but Chalice does single-handedly shut down your strongest way of winning a game out of nowhere. So being able to take care of it matters a lot. If I had a little bit more experience with the deck, I would say with more certainty, but I would probably be putting in some amount of Force of Vigors. Maybe not all 4 or 3, I think no, Nicole's playing 3, Thiago's playing 4.
I mean, I guess it could catch Leyline Binding on a Merc type. We did see that happen last game. So it's not just the Chalice, but it's still not great. As see both players just making land drops here. Do we have I'm not going to say all important 3rd land drop, but being stuck on 2 is pretty bad news.
Yeah, I kind of think that's the case for both of these decks as well, but Expressive Iteration going to try and allow for some extra land drops to be found.
All right. Dispute from Thiago Saporito. So this Expressive Iteration is not going to resolve, and does Nicole have land number 3? Looks like the answer is yes.
All right.
So
I'm kind of a big fan of the new Mystical Dispute arts too.
Are you? Yeah, those are the one. Those are the promos for the RCQs, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's very colorful. It reminds me of, I don't know why, because it's probably not even similar, but it reminds me of Blue Elemental Blast.
Oh, no, I can see what you mean by that. It definitely has like the swirling water art kind of behind it that it feels very reminiscent of that. All right, land number 3 found for both of these players. I feel like for Nicole, finding extra land past this point matters potentially a bit more.
I agree.
Than for Thiago, but Thiago saying 3 lands, that's what I need. Here's a Shardless Agent.
Okay, we saw Blood Wounding come in.
Oh, I was gonna say we're revealing a lot of our deck here. Nicole, rightful to take a closer look at what a lot of these cards that were brought in this matchup are. Okay, the Rhinos hit the board.
Yeah, no Flusterstorm or anything. And all right, Nicole being put to the test here. 10 power on the board across 3 bodies, and no sweepers in the deck. Now, an immediate answer isn't necessarily required. Something like Omnath or even Nissa would be just fine here as a starter.
Yeah, I agree, but we're going to start with sacrificing this Flooded Strand to make sure that we have lands for next turn, which I feel like kind of spells that we don't have, like, well, I guess if we were going to play Nissa, we'd need to go ahead and do this and then just follow it up with a fetch land. And now we've been kind of forced to make these actions. We don't have time to sit and accumulate fetch lands for a really big Omnath landfall turn or a Nissa landfall turn with more than just one.
All right, Teferi, that works. Pretty good. Get rid of a Rhino, draw a card, and also absorb a couple damage on the way back.
Yeah, in a game with 20 life, four's quite a bit. This is going to be a bit helpful. Shardless Agent takes care up to Fairy. There's nothing for 1 mana that's going to be able to stop that for Nicole, at least not
Ooh.
here.
All right. Tiago getting serious here.
Wow.
Shardless Agent into another pair of Rhinos. And yeah, without sweepers, I mean, this is
Yeah, I was going to say, we're going to maybe wish we were playing some of the older versions of 4-color control that had things like Supreme Verdict as an added element. I mean, Nicole could have brought in Engineer Explosives.
was there explosives in the list?
Yeah, there's 2 copies of Engineered Explosives.
Oh, well, then those would be excellent. Then, yes, I would imagine they did come in. You're right. I missed that originally. And something like that is probably going to be required here. It's tough. I mean, this is too much stuff. Even an Omnath plus, well, maybe an Omnath plus a land fetch into a Solitude would be stabilizing somewhat.
Yeah, it's definitely about to get out of hand here. So we're going to need to start either digging for some answers or putting something onto the field. Because even just these Rhinos are near enough to...
I guess Elderstone into Solitude would also be pretty good.
Ooh. I like the way you're thinking. Instead, it is Omnath, which isn't too horrible. It does gain some life.
It doesn't. That was Boseiju.
Oh, that was
Omnath.
the land. You're right.
Yeah. So Nicole wants to leave the Zagoth Triome to have access to white mana.
Oh, okay. And that white mana is equating to Leyline Binding. Take care of one of those Rhinos, but still 12 damage on the board between these Shardless Agents. But the Shardless Agents can be safely blocked by this Omnath. Just might eat a little bit of fire afterwards.
Yeah, so an ice here would put Nicole to 1. Yeah, consults the hand while shuffling here.
Yeah, do you think it's more important to put Nicole to 1 or finish off the Omnath to stop from gaining life next turn?
Well, if just an all attack here, Nicole doesn't have to block a Rhino. I think probably would block a Shardless Agent. So then, yeah, so that's what you're saying. Then fire the Rhino, the Omnath to finish it off, and Nicole be at 3. I would probably prefer that. This is going to be neither one of those. Oh, okay. Otawara, so there is the attack down to 1.
We're sitting here thinking about Fire Ice. I mean, there's more copy of Fire Ices in the deck than Otawara, but
yeah, Separado's like Fire Ice is like a 10-year-old card. New cards are stronger. Everyone knows that. Let's go with Otawara.
Not wrong. Mystical Dispute 4 of in the deck as well.
Yeah, and now, I mean, Engineering Explosive is not enough.
Yeah, I mean,
here's the Omnath. Okay, Omnath needs to find Omnath into.
We can't even. We're technically. I mean, Nicole's at 1, right?
Yeah, but
we can't even sacrifice a fetch land.
Well, no, we can because we'll gain 4 on the drop.
Okay.
Yeah, so fetch land here into explosives would leave Nicole at 4. That would do it. Okay, Steam Vents. Yeah. So okay, another... 5 life. Oh, Fury.
Tiago's like, yeah, what are we destroying 2 Shardless Agents or a Rhino? What's gonna be the call here? And then I had a hope with this white mana left up that there might have also been an Ephemerate.
Yeah, that would have been pretty good. That would have turned the game around completely. All right, here's an attack. Nicole drops to 1 again.
Indeed.
Tiago's got 1 card in hand.
1 card in hand, but 1 Rhino in play. And a dream. Tap land. Technically don't even have the option for it to come in untapped. I guess it depends on the rules you're using.
So, good choice on picking out the Shardless Agents instead of the 1 Rhino in case Explosives was drawn. That would be less good against the Shardless, I think. But obviously that was not the case anyway. Yeah, 1 life here versus 16. Tiago's life total is not really relevant right now. But is completely out of gas. But does Nicole have any defensive measures left? Ether Gust on the
Ooh,
token.
all right.
Okay, it's out of here.
Do you
And
want
we
that to
play
go on the
on.
top or the bottom of your
A land.
deck?
Oh my goodness. Is this
Oh,
okay, no play?
pass? Oh no, this
Wow.
is such a tense place to be. I mean, last game Tiago looked to be extremely behind
Yes.
and then ended up just icing a land that didn't really even matter to be able to draw into a way to win. And we're also able to see that Tiago does believe in deck thinning a little bit.
Nicole looking for, I mean, all creature on this and Omnath on March
Both of
Elderstorm.
our players are kind of looking
Nothing.
for that right now.
Yeah, and the counters are going dead now as we make land drops. Mystical Dispute is a lot worse. Flusterstorm is completely dead. There's a Violent Outburst.
Oh,
That's not dead. Nicole might
no.
be.
We'll see. I mean, quite a few cards in hand, and Nicole at least wasn't at least following them up with land drops. So maybe they're pieces of action or at least ways to interact.
Okay. Solitude would work.
Let's see. Path to Exile is going to be able to exile one of those.
Okay, and a binding.
Wow. Force of Vigor.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. What a match for us to have finished up this round with. And Thiago Saporito, first seed, and is going on to the finals of this tournament.
That was good stuff. I mean, that was so much pressure and defenses, and then both players just taking a breather and recovering for like 3 turns.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
then,
I feel like that's much more interesting to watch. And I think it shows kind of, for a long time, it was considered that like these 4-color decks are the ones that are best to play long games, and seeing that even the Crashing Footfalls deck is able to kind of also just be like, okay, we'll play off the top of our decks, and eventually I'm still going to be able to do as much as you.
I mean, I feel like we could talk about that for a few more minutes, but I think the other semifinal is still going. So if that's true, let's get in there. All right, so we got Tyler Novak and Benjamin Ungar. Yeah, and like, I mean, I'm sure both players, when Thiago draws the Force of Vigor, he's like, oh, this is worthless. And Nicole draws Path to Exile, like, oh, worthless. And then all those cards ended up mattering. But all right, back to where we're at now. See if we can get confirmation. Is the game state correct? We're in game 2. Benjamin Ungar up a game. This is not a time shifted match, so we can pull that off the top of the screen. And Jegantha's in play, which by my reckoning means Tyler Novak's in trouble.
They're both at 9 life, and the creatures that are in play for Benjamin are not well, okay, never mind. I was gonna say not the most impressive creatures for the Yawgmoth deck, but you play those not so impressive creatures because they work so well with Yawgmoth.
All right, so I mean, it's gonna take a while to burn down Jegantha with Yawgmoth, but I guess it's possible eventually.
We can proliferate too.
Yeah. Now Tyler Novak, his Zions give abilities to his other colored creatures. Jegantha would get First Strike and Trample if Zion was in play. That would make that quite a bit more of a beating, although still able to be handled. One card in hand for Benjamin. 2 for Tyler, including Chain of the Rocks. Okay.
That's like that feels like an old school card now.
I was feeling the same way. I mean, if you're playing all 5 colors, everyone is playing Leyline Binding these days. Tyler Novak's Chain of the Rocks. Let's go.
Maybe, I mean, I was going to say maybe we didn't have copies of Leyline Binding, but there's a Leyline Binding in play with a grist under it. So that's not quite the case. Maybe we just wanted more copies of Leyline Binding.
That is in fact correct. There are Leyline Binding's main deck. The Chain of the Rocks are from the sideboard.
Yawgmoth Gonna go to the rocks.
Okay, so 3-power creatures all around. One of them just taps for 5 mana, which is not of much relevance right now. Benjamin will attempt to trade, and there's a Tribal Flames for 5, which if our board is correct, will tie up the match. So, all right, yeah, I mean that's Tribal Flames, boy, that hits hard. That always has, even back in the day. It's just that the mana is easier to assemble now than it used to be.
Certainly true. If we have access to deck lists, I'd love to take a look at them and be able to discuss. We recently saw Benjamin Ungar's Golgari Yawgmoth the deck, and I think it was probably a different game plan before. The Go for the Throat and Fatal Push, probably a little more interested in those now, potentially that Murderous Cut as well, just removal pieces to make sure that there are less kind of wombo combos in the form of a lot of these creatures in play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean there are this 5-color zoo deck. I mean these things hit hard. There are the random sporadic artifact creatures alongside Leyline Bindings, so disenchants are pretty valuable. And yeah, no matter how you shake it out, Tribal Flames hits hard. 5 life, and it was for the full amount too. I mean it was Benjamin was at 5 after the attack.
Yeah, and we're able to take a peek at kind of already what Tyler Novak has decided he would like in this matchup, and Chain to the Rocks was something that was already very interested in. And I guess it makes sense. You're trying to clear the way for your creatures to block, and if your opponent is able to stick anything down, we're just like not interested in that. And as well as just making sure that those combo pieces are not able to stick in play. It's pretty important too against the Yawgmoth deck.
Yeah, exile removal is pretty huge here. Lightning Bolt's not so exciting against undying creatures, but Chain of Rocks, Leyline Binding, pretty good stuff. All right, let's go back down there. Game 3. See who is going to face Thiago Saporito in the finals.
I mean, which one of these decks do you think the Rhinos deck is more eager to play against?
I would have to go back and look at the sideboards again, focusing on that aspect. I imagine that the Rhinos deck can maybe overpower the elementals. What we have listed as 5-color elementals now. Wait, that's
it's definitely like 5-color zoo, and it even says so on Melee. There we go. Okay.
All right.
Much thanks production as 1-drop versus 1-drop. I don't know, Yawgmoth versus Ragavan.
Yeah, that's a bad deal for the Ragavan.
I was gonna say, yeah, Yawgmoth blocks Ragavan. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm sure Benjamin's very happy with those corresponding turn 1 plays. I don't know. Against the Rhinos, like Yawgmoth can gum up the board. It has 0-5s as long as you're obviously aware you're playing against me. You don't take counters off of Wall of Roots too as quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I would love that matchup from the Rhinos side because you have Fire Ice, but that doesn't really kill too many relevant things. But at this point in the day, we're also figuring we're playing against very capable players who may be a little fatigued at this point, especially if they played both days this weekend. But if you're playing decks as something I've found, especially I'll tell you, practicing for the Pro Tour recently, practicing against average players versus playing against Pro Tour players is not the same thing. And so when you're, how games might go in practice, amongst your friends or on the ladder, isn't quite the same as how it plays out in late rounds of tournaments.
Turn 2 now for Benjamin Ungar here. And sides Wall of Roots.
Wall of Roots, and Yawgmoth's like, yeah, I don't want to risk it. I'm staying back.
I mean, I'd like for a Ragavan to attack into my Yawgmoth anytime, any place, any day, and Benjamin seems to feel the same way.
As he should. Yeah, that would be a trade that would be very worthwhile. What do we got follow up here? We have, what's that? That's Territorial Kavu?
Yes, that is Territorial Kavu.
All right, so that's currently that's currently maxed for 2 lands. It's a 4/4 already. Foolish Benjamin putting a counter on his Wall of Roots. Now it can't safely block.
Very true, but
Although I
is
guess
allowing
Territorial
for
Kavu
mana
is
acceleration.
Territorial Kavu without trample. So these other creatures. Oh, there's a fatal push. Never mind. Doesn't matter anyway. Now an attack? Yes.
Yeah, let's start getting in there. I mean, normally I would expect the 5-color Zoo deck to attack quite a bit faster, but I mean, I'm sure Benjamin isn't too upset about trying to get in a little bit of chip damage.
No, why not? There's another replacement Kavu. Doesn't match the first one. Shame on you, Tyler Novak.
If only. You know what? This Walroots already gets taken down by a 4/4 Territorial Kavu. Maybe we'll add another 0/-1 counter, maybe?
All right. That is somewhat suspicious of Court of Calling.
You think so?
I think so. But, well, never. Okay. Murderous Cut. There you go. We've seen that twice today. It's been good both times. And now another attack.
Yeah, I mean, that Murderous Cut the last time we saw it was basically what got Ben into this top 8. So happy to see it again here and continue to take down these large and cheap creatures that Tyler is deploying on the board.
Yeah, large and cheap creatures, but they are more expensive than the removal spells that Benjamin is spending on them, allowing him to get in through, I mean, for what seems to be not very significant amounts of damage, but Tyler's at 11.
2 and 1, those add up and they add up quick.
Yeah,
we're not playing Commander here. We've got 20 life.
What do you even start in Commander Net? Is it 40 or 30?
Yeah, it's 40. It's so much.
That is a lot.
You just get to do whatever you want for the first like 3 turns unless somebody's decking you.
Yeah, that's okay. Was it Nishoba Brawler comes into play? Another fairly beastly creature. I guess it's a cat warrior, but it's currently a 4/3. But with the fetch line in play, I would treat it as effectively a Juggernaut. But Grist,
I mean,
Grist's not going to have trouble taking that down.
Yeah.
Tyler Novak, let's not forget, even though he doesn't have any blue mana or permanents, it does have counters in this deck.
All right, yeah. Somebody decking you or somebody decking themselves to win the game.
Somebody decking themselves to win the game.
Yeah, there's a bunch of Thoracle decks.
Oh.
Surprise, surprise. It's too hard to kill all your opponents with 40 life. It's much easier to get rid of all the cards in your deck.
I suppose. That makes sense. See, I have no experience. Several years ago, I was walking through a tournament hall, and there's a Stubborn Denial to stop the Grist.
Yuck. All right, I need a quick input from chat while we're figuring out what this Grist is doing. I need to know what commander we think Joe Lissette would play.
What? Oh, Oh, okay. There was no Stubborn. I thought I saw Stubborn Denial. I don't know what just happened there, but
yeah, I think we decided that something was wrong and we could not actually Stubborn Denial. So.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Well, that's really bad news for Tyler Novak.
Yeah.
Like Chris came into play, wiped out the Nishoba Brawler, and there's a Wild Nacatl and a Zion. All right. Well, all of a sudden, the blockers have first strike, which makes it much easier to win in combat.
All right, we're trying to hold down the fort with as many creatures as possible, but I mean, we were talking about it earlier. Sometimes this army of little creatures are able to get across for more than enough.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, the Grist is a creature on the stack, so someone now can't counter it. That's what happened.
That's so cheeky.
That is super punishing for Tyler. Yeah. especially if he shocked in the land with the intention of doing that.
Yeah, and I think that might have been what happened too.
Yeah. All right, so now sitting on 5 life, and yeah, quirk of the very well designed grist, making that counter effectively useless here.
All right, we had a lot of people saying that your commander would be Grand Arbiter Augustine the Fourth.
Interesting. I've got one of those lying around somewhere, I'm sure.
I was gonna say, I think people just think you would play blue-white.
Yeah, I don't know if that would be what I wanted to do though. Blue white was like, a stretch of my life, but we're well past that now.
All right.
Anyway, I want to get back to this game here. I don't want to take away from these players who are a game away from the finals. Benjamin Ungar, I mean, can just sit here, I guess, and try and use grist, but Zion has flying itself.
Ooh,
However,
but
it
it's
is
also
an
an artifact.
Yeah, Boseiju takes it down, and now grist will get a shot at. I mean, if Benjamin wants it at the Nacatl, and there is not much left. Ragavan got played in turn 1 and has just sat there the entire time. Facing down Strangleroot, a insect token, and 2 young wolves. That's blocked the biggest one. That looks like 4.
Does the Yawgmoth deck all of a sudden play Lightning Bolt?
I believe so, but there's all. I mean, somehow Benjamin still only has 2 land. Oh, Tribal Flames takes out Grist. All right, scratch that. And the Tarmogoyf. All right, never mind. We're still playing.
I mean, this is a pretty different zoo list than the other 5-color zoo list we were looking at. I don't think the other one was playing Tarmogoyf.
No, in fact, the other one was playing against Tarmogoyfs in the John Zagavan deck.
Right. Low life total. It looks like Ben is checking to make sure that life totals are correct. And also trying to make sure we know how big this Tarmogoyf is.
Yeah, well, it's big enough. One Tarmogoyf hit and 2 Tribal Flames would finish him off. Oh, another Grist. That's rough.
Yikes.
But doesn't mean Tyler's immediately dead, because he still has the now he'll still have the Nacatl left alongside the Ragavan. And I guess there's a potential attack there where Benjamin gives up a couple creatures and squeezes through a little bit of damage.
Tyler, I like looking at our.
Okay.
Ooh. We're just. There's just a bunch of creatures in both of these decks. The fact that Benjamin has been able to get in enough times that Tyler is at 5 is kind of impressive on its own.
Yeah, and Tyler's like, hey, can you please draw 10 land in a row here? Come on. But there's still several cards in Benjamin's hand.
I mean, we've been stuck on 2 lands. What do you want? Our Wall of Roots is 1 counter away from death.
Yeah. And here is a chord for...
A lot?
Yeah. Stubborn Denial.
4? Hey, I'll pay for it.
Yeah,
because the Wild Nacatls aren't big enough.
It's ferocious, right? Not ferocious. All right, Yawgmoth comes in. Plenty of fodder. In fact, multiple Undying creatures, 1 without a counter. So Benjamin can basically draw as much as he wants here. Start with Strangleroot. Take the counter off the Yawgmoth. All right. Back and forth we go until Benjamin draws a land, apparently.
Hold up. I have to decide exactly what my young wolves are killing.
Benjamin does lose a life each time. I mean, maybe the bottom 20 cards of his deck are all land, although I'm not sure that would even stop him from winning at this point.
I'm not sure either, as Wall of Roots finally gonna be taken down. Cord again. This time I believe for 2, and Blood Artist is the play. That fixes the life loss on Yawgmoth problem.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. So that means 5 activations will finish off Tyler Novak, and As long as Benjamin's at more than 1, and I imagine he is, yes, that will do it. So Tyler Novak will fall in the top 4. A good run for an outside the metagame deck.
Oh,
For
I mean,
Tyler
we
Novak.
had 2 decks that are
Yeah.
5 colors you make it. We've been seeing a lot of decks that I feel like people normally have completely counted out that are continuing to do quite well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And yet in the finals, we have Cascading Rhinos against Yawgmoth, 2 decks that we've seen numerous times that do well in the Raid series. I mean, this is modern. Things change, but things stay the same. Tiago Saporito will face Benjamin Ungar once the players are ready to go. In the meantime, we're going to show you the upcoming events so that if you want to make plans to make your way out to various cities in the Midwest to play or watch online, here you go. June 24th. Let me try that again. Late June, we have a 10K Modern and a 5K Legacy event in Mundelein, Illinois. In early July, so a couple weeks later, in St. Louis, we have 10K Team Showdown and a 5K Legacy. All 3 players from the team event will qualify for the end of the year championship, as well as earning invites to the upcoming regional championship. And then to finish out the summer, Detroit in mid-August, 12th and 13th, Modern 10K and Pioneer 5K, reverse of what we had this weekend. So if you're enjoying the coverage, you want to come out and play, there's always room. If you want to watch along at home, you can subscribe to the channel, you can do that also, but you can follow the channel and receive notifications when we go live, when things are, in the hopper and ready to go. Okay, so Becky Bell, we've got 1 match left. You're going to retire from coverage right now, or you want to come back on the other side of the commercial break?
I guess I'll come back just
All
for
right,
you.
me too. All right, so we'll give the players a few minutes to get situated. Maybe they use the restroom, get a drink of water. You can use that time to do the same. We'll be back with the finals of the Modern 5K just after this.